Hello everyone, this is Mr. E. Today's video will be an overall introduction geared towards Air Force education, so let's get started. This is a simple overview of everything that will be talked about in this video. Let's start off by looking at the main slide. This main slide shows the specific topics that will be talked about in this video when looking at Air Force education. The main topics are Community College of the Air Force, or better known as CCAF, military education such as professional military education, or better known as PMEs, complication of civilian education while trying to complete your CCAF degree, and finally, the ways to pay for college credits and classes. Next, let's look at the CCAF degree slide. Now there are two main subtopics that will be covered. The first subtopic is the CCAF degree requirement. The second subtopic is how someone can complete his or her CCAF degree. Now let's look at the CCAF degree requirements. These are the main requirements that the Air Force has stated that each individual needs to complete in order to receive a CCAF degree. This first requirement is actually being in the United States Air Force. As of right now, this means only members of the Air Force are eligible for enrollment into a CCAF degree. However, there are current debates going on in Congress to open up the Community College of the Air Force to all service members. In the majority of cases, for someone to earn a CCAF degree, they have to be on active duty, a member of the Air National Guard, or a member of the Air Force Reserves, excluding individual rated reserves, or better known as IRR members. Finally, a CCAF degree is only offered to enlisted members of the Air Force and not officers. The next requirement has to deal with individual skill level. An airman must have a skill level 5 before receiving a CCAF degree. This becomes complicated for those who have been in the Air Force and are switching their Air Force Specialty Code, or better known as AFSC. For example, if a member was a skill level 5 in their previous AFSC, the Air Force requires that individual to complete their degree plan of his or her first AFSC before finishing a new one. The only time when this will not automatically apply is when the individual has lost their catalog rights to the previous AFSC. This is usually around a 6-year time frame or less. When looking at individuals who are joining the Air Force for the first time, the Air Force will automatically enroll the member into the Community College of the Air Force and into a degree plan according to their AFSC that they have chosen. Finally, members who are a skill level 1 or 3 should know that there are no waivers for them to acquire which would satisfy the CCAF degree skill level 5 requirement. Now, a member can possess a skill level 7 or 9 in any AFSC to be eligible to receive their CCAF degree. The next requirement looks at 5 specific general education classes needed to complete the CCAF degree. The specific general education requirements are broken down into 5 different categories, which are oral communication, written communication, math, social science, and humanities. Each one of these categories will have a 3-semester unit requirement. These categories are actually tricky when converting civilian college credits or units into the requirements for the CCAF degree. The best way to make sure that the units will be converted correctly is by viewing a course conversion table in the Air Force Virtual Education Center, or better known as AFVEC or AFVEC. The link for the AFVEC can be seen in the Air Force portal. Another options which airmen have if they want to see if their civilian institution credits or units will convert correctly is by visiting an Air Force Bases Education Center for help. I should emphasize that the reason why it is so important to check if a civilian institution's credits or units are converted correctly is because not all civilian classes, courses, or units will convert or count towards the specific general education requirement outlined for the CCAF degree. By the time that an airman is ready to graduate, he or she should have completed all 15 specific general education requirements applicable to his or her CCAF degree. The next requirement, which needs to be completed before graduating with a CCAF degree, is 15 semester units worth of electives. The 15 additional semester elective units should be one of the easiest and most beneficial to the airman. The reason why it is so easy to complete is that any unit will apply to the elective section of the degree plan. Now, the reason why this section is so beneficial to the airmen is because they can take any college class that they would like to take and it would fulfill the 15-unit elective requirement. The next requirement will cover the technical core and technical elective requirement of the CCAF degree plan. The technical core and technical elective requirement is placed under one category within the CCAF degree plan. The reason why they are placed together is that an airman doesn't need to have any technical electives to graduate, but they do need to have a minimum of 12 technical core semester units to graduate. Also, between the two groups, there needs to be a total of 24 semester units. These next requirements will be a combination of leadership education and physical education. The reason why I had put these two categories together is the majority of the airmen will complete these throughout their military career without having to take a college class. The way that the majority of airmen complete their physical education requirement is when they complete basic training. The way that the airman completes their leadership management and military studies requirement is through Airman Leadership School, or better known as ALS. Or if the airman is transferring from another branch, they can complete the Air Force NCOA course or the Senior NCOA course. One other option that I would like to point out at this time is if this is the last requirement for the airman to complete their CCAF degree, they could still take a college class, CLEP, or DSST to fulfill this requirement. I would also recommend checking in with the base education center if it is the last requirement for the airman to complete, just to make sure that he or she is taking the right test or class for it to transfer in properly. The final requirement is to have a total of 64 applicable units towards the CCAF degree. When looking at a CCAF degree transcript, there could be more than 64 units on the transcript, but this does not mean that all the units are applied towards the CCAF degree. For example, some airmen might have additional physical education credits that have been placed on the transcript because of upgrade training, or an airman who has completed the Non-Commissioner Officer Academy course might have additional leadership management units and still needs technical core or technical elective units. Pretty much the original slide on the requirements to get your CCAF degree shows a better outline of what needs to be completed in each category. To have a better look at the requirements again, let's have a look at the original slide. To reiterate the requirements, a person must be an enlisted member of the Air Force, be awarded a 5-skill level or above within an AFSC, complete the 15 specific units of general education, complete the additional 15 units of electives, complete the appropriate 24 units of technical core and or technical elective units, complete 6 units of leadership management, complete 4 units of physical education, and finally have the total number of applicable units towards the CCAF degree equal to 64. Now that we have looked at the requirements to get a CCAF degree, let's look at the ways to complete a CCAF degree. The different ways to currently complete CCAF degrees are by traditional college classes, by taking a college level examination program test, or better known as CLEP test, or by taking a Defense Activity for Non-Traditional Education Support Subject Standardized Test, or better known as a DSST, or by participating in military training. And finally, there are some other minor possible ways of getting credits that I'll briefly talk about. First, let's look at how to receive credit through traditional college. There are 2 ways of getting credit through traditional classes. One way is by actually being in a college class on a physical campus. Campuses can range from state universities, state community colleges, private schools, and even some trade schools. The second way to gain credit through the traditional college route is by going to a college online. The only reason why I have separated these 2 options into 2 different categories is for some people who want to use their GI Bill, and to let them know that their benefits which they will be receiving will be different depending on which route they decide to take. However, no matter which route an individual decides to take, make sure that the school is either nationally or regionally accredited, and to check with the Unbased Education Center to make sure that the classes which are being taken will transfer to the CCAF degree correctly. Another way of earning credits towards a CCAF degree is through CLEP testing. The great thing about being a military member is that each military member can take any CLEP test once for free. There are approximately 30 individual subjects to test on. If a member fails the test the first time but wishes to retest a CLEP, all they have to do is pay $100 the second time. CLEP tests can nearly cover all general education category requirements within the CCAF degree plan, with only exception being oral communication. The next type of test which could be used to help with completing the CCAF degree requirements is the DSST. Just like the CLEP, military members can take each DSST once for free. There are approximately 30 DSST tests to take. Unlike CLEP tests, DSSTs have a test which cover every area of the CCAF degree requirement, even oral communication. The good thing about DSSTs is that some of the tests are actually upper division bachelor level units, compared to CLEP, which are usually considered all lower level units. Even though the Community College of the Air Force will take the DSSTs, at the current moment, only 1,600 colleges are granting college credits for DSSTs. I'll talk about this topic in a later video just because of its complexity. The next way of earning credits is one of the easiest ways, which is through military training. The reason why military training is one of the easiest ways of earning credits is that an airman receives credits for things that they naturally do in the military. For an example, an airman can earn credits for basic training, professional military education courses, upgrade training, special training schools, and in some cases even when they receive a promotion. Best examples are the 4 physical education units that airmen receive when finishing basic training, or the 6 units of leadership management credits that are received once completing Airman Leadership School. The final way that an airman can receive applicable credits towards a CCAF degree is one of the most difficult ways, and this is through unconventional or non-traditional means. Like I had mentioned before, I will only talk about these topics only briefly. There are currently 5 different ways that I know how airmen can receive applicable college credits towards the CCAF degree, and that is through free CCAF classes, Excelsior exams, credits received from other military branches, through the Defense Language Proficiency Test while in the military, or by having a portfolio or professional credential. First, looking at CCAF classes. Sometimes these classes are given or announced on the Air Force portal, and at the current moment they are free. Next, there are Excelsior exams. These exams are given through Excelsior College, and the price of these exams vary depending on the exam itself. Next, any military member can take a Defense Language Proficiency exam, and if he or she scores high enough on the exam, the member will receive college credits. So if an airman knows a second language proficiently, I would highly recommend taking this test. Finally, the hardest way to receive credits out of all the options mentioned is trying to receive credits through a portfolio or by obtaining a professional credential. An example of this would be someone working as an X-ray technician as a civilian. An airman might receive additional credits for having that professional certificate. I'm also going to emphasize that the member might not receive credits, but there is a possibility. Currently, these are all the ways in which I know that airmen can receive credits. Just to recap, once again, the ways to receive credits towards a CCAF degree is through traditional college, CLEPS, DSST, military training, through the Air Force classes, Excelsior exams, the Defense Language Proficiency Test, and from portfolios or professional certificates. Now let's take the time to recap everything that has currently been talked about. The 2 main topics which have been covered so far are the CCAF degree requirements and how to receive credits for the CCAF degree. This concludes the portion of the CCAF degree information. The next video will cover information related to military education. If you find this video helpful, please tell other people and subscribe. Thank you.